What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Action Network podcast presented by BetMGM. Today, we've got our NFL player projections episode for week 16. I'm your host, Chris Raybon of the Action Network. And today, we're going to run through our top 5 players at each skill position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. We'll discuss players who are especially high and low on, and of course, throw out some player props. Here to break it down with me, one of the top fantasy rankers in the game, the odds maker, Sean Kerner. Sean, what's going on? I got an email saying you were at an 8-0 weekend, so I'm assuming pretty good.
Yeah, I had a good weekend, and then I went 0-1 last night. I know we always joke about having a good weekend and then
bad taste in your mouth,
losing
right?
the very last bet. Whatever. Overall picture, had a good week. Even hit on the Panthers actually winning that game, so that was fun.
I saw that. That was amazing.
But how are you doing?
I'm good. Had a winning week, but I'm kind of bummed that the Panthers did win that game because Stuckey and I both had Falcons NFC South tickets that looked really good 2 weeks ago, and it just have gone completely up in flames.
Yeah, no, I had the over. I think it was 8.5 wins, and I've been slowly watching that lose. The Falcons are just not a good team, so
they're so bad.
I didn't think I was hitting that anyway, but I saw we both hit on Rodriguez. C-Rod. I don't know what books were thinking. Even after we both hit it, it moved down. Did you see it was like 17.5? Before,
yeah, I couldn't get that. I was like, I'm pretty sure he's gonna be like a kind of like a 1-for-1 for Robinson for the most part.
Should be, yeah.
But it was a weird rotation in that game. They actually used Jonathan Williams as the third down back, complete third down back.
Yeah.
Like, Antonio Gibson did not get a third down snap. So
it was so
weird
bizarre. Total Ron Rivera stuff. But yeah, like I hit it again when it went down to 15.5. It was down to 10.5. They only ran like 5 plays in the first half. It was truly bizarre. And then the second half, they just featured him. So, that was a good hit for both of us.
Yeah, man. And we will, of course, throw out some more props after each position. So let's get right into quarterback, week 16, top 5. Who you got?
Well, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Fields, and Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I got different order, but same guys. I got Hurts, Allen, Justin Fields third, Mahomes, and then Dak. So yeah, nice. A little bit of a different top 5. Who are you high on?
Well, I'm high on Justin Fields, obviously. So are you. He's in our top 5. He's my QB4. He finished as the QB 24 last week, but we can sort of forgive him. He had that brutal matchup against the Browns. However, he has a good matchup this week against the Cardinals, so I think we can treat him as a top 5 option. And if you have him on your team, you likely drafted him inside, what was it, the top 5, top 6?
Top 6, yeah.
Top 6, yeah. So, I mean, he hasn't lived up to that. And he's missed a handful of games, on top of that. So, if you're in the playoffs, I think he's going to pay off his ADP here. This is a good spot. And there's a ton of uncertainty surrounding Fields. Like, I don't know where he's going to be next year. He could get traded. So, he wants to prove himself over these last few weeks. So, I think, he wants to have a good game here. And I think this is a spot where, we could see a true ceiling game from him, especially if it's DJ Moore deep a couple times, runs around. So if you had him, he's been disappointing. But I think this week you can treat him as a top 5 option.
Yeah, he's probably better in real life than he's been for fantasy.
True.
Which is like not what you would expect from Justin Fields.
Could have had a bigger game if Mooney hung on to that. As someone with the under 37.5, I love that. But that Mooney's got to come down with that.
Yeah, that was bad. There was I seen a picture where it was just like him with the ball in his stomach and then like no defender around him. And it's like this ended with an interception. It's like, how?
Yeah. It set up perfectly for him. That's kind of how those go. You need it tipped to a guy, but if it touches you and you're a wide receiver like that, you have to hang on to that.
Yeah, it was bad. I'm high on Baker Mayfield this week. Yeah. Coming off a really good game. He's moving up in my model. He's just kind of the default quarterback that like he's not. He's capable of throwing deep. He's capable of putting up multiple touchdowns, throwing for a lot of yards. He's not turning the ball over at the rate he was at certain points in his career. So he's just a solid fantasy quarterback here. So when he's in a solid matchup, against the Jaguars, who their defense is okay, but they've allowed the third most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. And Mayfield has 6 multi-touchdown games in his last 8 games. Godwin finally started to get involved more in the offense last week, which is a good sign. And the Bucs are making a playoff push. So I don't expect them to let up. I know we might get a backup for Jacksonville, which knocks him down a little bit, but I already have this game projected for a pretty low total, in case Lawrence misses with the concussion. And I still have Mayfield as my QB 10. I think he's QB 12 in consensus. So he is rising up, but yeah, I think Mayfield is startable this week if you're in a bind.
Yeah, top 10. So he's in the streaming mix. I have him QB 14, but it's really close. So maybe I'll get there. I mean, he played so well last week. You just think he'll kind of keep that momentum going, right?
Yeah, and so the Bucs have kind of, even though Rachaad White has been great, the Bucs passing, they're throwing a lot too. Like Rachaad White is the only guy really touching the ball in the backfield, but their pass rate has kind of been inching up a little bit, especially since they got a bye very early in the year. So it's kind of been inching up since then. So we're at the point of the season where I do throw out some of the weeks 1, 2, and 3 tendencies. So that might be it. But yeah, he's definitely in the mix either way. Whether it's 10 or 12 or 14, it's most people in most leagues that's going to be on the fringes. So yeah, like him this week. Who are you low on?
I'm low on Jake Browning. Unfortunately, he's my QB 19 to open the week. Despite, having another great game last week, I think we both had him in our, top 12. Like, he's been playing like a QB 1. He's been the QB 2 over the last 3 weeks.
Amazing.
Amazing. And unfortunately, when I actually took them plus 2.5 against the Steelers, he looked like Tim Boyle, but I digress. However, this week I think he's going to be without Jamar Chase. We'll see what happens, but likely going to be without Jamar Chase. And he's been banking on, his pass catchers racking up yards after the catch, and Chase has been averaging 35 yards after the catch a game with Browning under center. So, his loss could be pretty big for him. And I mentioned, Browning didn't look good in his first start. That was without T. Higgins. So this will be, potentially his first game without Jamar Chase. So I think Browning, when he has all his pass catchers in the right matchup, can be like a top 10 quarterback, but I'm a little bit lower on him here. This is at Pittsburgh. I don't know what the weather is going to be like. I would imagine they'll have a pretty good game plan to overcome if Chase is out, but it's just a tough spot to trust Browning. If you're in a league, 12 other teams, there's probably better streaming options out there like a Baker Mayfield. So I'm definitely low on him. I'm treating him like a mid-range to low-end QB2 this week.
Yeah, I agree. This is also the same team that he struggled against, as you mentioned. The only thing, the matchup did get a little easier when Pittsburgh lost 2 safeties in a span of 3 plays because they lose KZ when he pops Pittman, and then 2 plays later it's Minka Fitzpatrick is down, and now he's apparently out as far as I see as we record this on Tuesday. So. Yeah, I'm seeing news articles that say he will not play this week at NBC Sports.
And his backup's iffy too.
Yeah, so it's that's the one thing that changes. But I agree. I just think this is a second divisional matchup. He struggled in the first one. It's on the road. He's missing his top receiver. We just can't kind of bank on him like we could. I think these last couple of weeks in some more forgiven matchup. So I agree. He's out of the top 15 for me as well. Another guy I'm low on out of my top 15 this week is Jordan Love. He's down to QB 17, and it's not as much of an indictment on him. I know he's had some banged up pass catchers. We'll see what's good with Watson and Reed this week, but really he's playing the Carolina Panthers, and the Carolina Panthers, because of the way they're playing, especially since firing Frank Reich, they're ultra run heavy. They got a much better pass defense than run defense. 17th in pass DVOA, 31st against the run. JC Horn back at corner obviously helps them. So even though Carolina's defense overall and the team overall has been bad, they've allowed the fewest fantasy points per game to opposing quarterback, which just tells you, your defense is 17th against the pass, yet you're allowing the fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks. What does that tell you? That there's more going on there, than just your quality of matchup. It's the game script, it's the amount of pressure they're putting on other teams to score, and it's the amount of runs that are kind of draining the clock. So this is a matchup here for Jordan Love where, Green Bay, they need a win, but they might just try to, get in, get out, run. Maybe Dylan will be back. We'll see. But I think Green Bay, Aaron Jones, I think he had like 10 or 11 carries in the first half last week. And then the game got away from them. But I think they like to be a little more balanced this week. So nothing against Love, but just not the game script for him to have a ceiling game. And, the floor is low playing this Carolina team because you might not need to do much at all. I mean, not 10 points would have beat him last week. They didn't, but they would have. So, that kind of frames, going up against this Panther defense.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. He's my QB 17. I feel like it's been pouring rain in Carolina for like 3 straight weeks now, so we'll have to see what the weather looks like there.
Yeah, I think he said lowest attendance ever at an NFL game. That game.
Yeah, week. I saw the pictures of like right around kickoff. It was very sparse.
Yeah, it's like a few hundred people there.
Looked like when I used to go to Clipper games when I was in 8th grade, and it was just like me, Billy Crystal, and Dave Winfield, my dad, just chilling.
Yeah, they had I love the jerseys back then. I think I had like a Darius Miles.
Nice.
Clipper jersey, and then it was like Miles Odom, that era. Like, or was it even? It was before that, right? Probably when you were gone. Was it? Was it
Michael Olowokandi?
Oh, okay, same era.
Rodney
era.
Rogers,
yeah. Pietkowski, Eric Pietkowski.
Oh yeah, definitely him. He was on the team.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe, now that the Panthers won a game, maybe they'll have like hundreds of people there next week.
Doubtful. Okay, let's see here. You went 2-0 on props last week. I went 1-0. I think one of them got knocked out. No, I lost one. Well, how did it go? Oh, no.
Keenan Allen didn't play.
Yeah. So technically,
my bad.
Yeah, I'm telling you have a way of like finding some guy that's going to be injured.
I think he was already injured. Like I put the caveat out there, but it doesn't help that everyone's getting ruled out this year.
Yeah, I mean Evans did get more yards than him, but it wasn't.
That is true.
A fair fight.
Yeah.
Let's go. So Brock Purdy, tough matchup against Baltimore. Let's go. Brock Purdy rank over under 12.5.
Oh, like his final rank for the week?
Yeah.
Damn. Okay.
Because he's been killing it, but this is, probably the toughest defense he's faced in a while.
Yeah, they will get to throw more, presumably. But let's see. So last week, I'll just cheat and look at what I had last week for like. Where do you have Purdy ranked right now? He's my QB
right now.
7.
He's my QB. Yeah, he's my QB 8 right now. But Lawrence, I have Lawrence. Lawrence would be ahead of him if he was healthy, so he's probably gonna miss. So that he would be up to 7. But yeah, he was like my QB 2 or 3 last week after all the shenanigans.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting question, especially there's also it's a full slate.
Yeah, it's about like a 50-50 chance he'll finish as a QB1. That is a good line. I'm gonna invest in Brock Purdy. Anytime I've invested in him this year, it has panned out. So I'm not gonna buck that trend right now. So give me inside the top 12.5. That's a good line. And.
All right.
Yeah, we have quite a few backups this week. There's some tough matchups too. So yeah, I like this one.
Yeah, he'll probably get there. I mean, but it is an interesting question because I noticed he's a little lower than he was for me last week. All right, let's go to running back. Who you got in the top 5?
All right, let's see. Before even looking, I know Christian McCaffrey number 1, Kyren Williams number 2. After that, Rachaad White number 3. My season-long bet on him to go under, 700 yards is probably toast by now. Oh, well. Alvin Kamara, number 4, and Tony Pollard, number 5.
I have McCaffrey, Kyren, Rachaad White, Kamara, and then James Cook, number 5.
Yeah, I like James Cook at number 5 over Pollard, but it's close.
Yeah, Pollard, I mean, he's just been he's another guy who's been super frustrating. But... Oh, who are you high on?
I'm high on Devin Singletary. He's my RB 20 to open the week. And when Dameon Pierce came back a few weeks ago, it looked like he was taking the lead role back in week 13 specifically, but it's swung back the other way pretty significantly, because last week Singletary just dominated all the work, and Pierce has like pretty much been completely phased out, which has been interesting to see. And Singletary ran for 121 yards and had 49 receiving yards, so hard to see this changing anytime soon. Yeah, granted, it is a rough matchup against the Browns, but he should see a big enough workload where I'm viewing him as a low-end RB2, getting CJ Stroud back, hopefully, will take some pressure off him, maybe set up some short yardage touchdowns. Unless you have, Christian McCaffrey, Kyron Williams, and Raheem Mostert, you're probably starting a running back that has some issues, especially a week, there's no buys, there's a lot of guys to choose from, but just given his potential big workload, I think Singletary does provide the high floor you do want in a must-win game in the playoffs. So I'm rolling him as a low-end RB2 despite the tougher matchup here against the Browns.
Do you have an RB 20?
RB 20, yeah. Where do you have him?
RB 11. I mean, he's.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes you feel better.
Yeah.
The ECR is RB 33. That's obviously just early week shenanigans, but holy shit, RB 11.
I mean, it got it. Like it's been multiple games that Pierce has been back, and Pierce has only had significant carries in one of them, and that was 3 games ago, and he didn't do well, and then he seemed to get phased out these last 2 weeks. So it's hard to. I mean, you can't. Like, there's no one else to really give carries to. I mean, Ogunbowale is going to get like 1 or 2 on third down kind of situations, but and then they'll give the receivers a couple, but it's just kind of at this. It snaps really. It's when a guy's playing that many. I think he set his second highest carry mark of his career last week. I think he had 26. So we've seen this before with Singletary too. I think it was it either last year or the year before where he just blew up down a stretch for the Bills too. Yeah. So
whenever he's been the lead back, he's come through for the Bills and the Texans. It's just one of those things. People are going to be on ESPN, Yahoo, or whatever, and they're going to see that red matchup icon for the Browns, and we're just saying, yes, it's a bad matchup, but he's going to be a lock for 15, 20 touches, and in that range, that's kind of what you need. So that's why. Well, I thought I was high on him, but you have him as a low end RB1, which I could certainly get behind.
I mean, if you think I'm high on him, Chuba Hubbard is my RB6.
Wow, love it though.
I mean, so he's had. It's kind of a similar situation to Singletary where there's another guy in the backfield and he just kind of ran circles around him. So the last 3 games, which happened to coincide with the firing of Frank Reich, the former head coach, Chuba Hubbard, 24 or more touches in each game, 96 or more scrimmage yards in each game of his last 3. And Green Bay's allowing the 9th most fantasy points per game to running backs. And this Carolina team has shown they're just going to keep riding the run game in general, but especially Hubbard, and he's been getting carries. They've been down, trailing game script. They've been close games. Doesn't matter. He's been getting 20 plus carries these days, and I think we kind of saw that too with when Thomas Brown took over those few games before Wright got fired. Hubbard, his usage rate went up, and Miles Sanders, who presumably was more of a front office, Scott Fitterer, Frank Reich, Deuce Staley, who also got fired, the former running backs coach. He was with Miles Sanders in Philly. So I think, the new coaching staff's allegiance doesn't really lie with Sanders. And so you're seeing Hubbard, who's been the better back, get touches. And like you said, at this point in the season, there's a lot of guys kind of in that same glut. So like the guys that are emerging and getting the most snaps aren't the same guys that were doing it for most of the year. So like Chuba this week.
Yeah, I like that call. Did you see how they were using Amir Smith-Marset in that game?
Like
I don't blame you if you weren't watching that game. It was
absolutely.
It was really cool. And like he had 4 carries for 31 yards. It might be annoying, like those could have gone to Hubbard, but he was starting to open up holes for Hubbard because the defense didn't know if Amir Smith-Marset was getting it. So I think in the long run, having that option could actually help Hubbard out because Hubbard's getting 20 plus carries either way. But having like a dynamic receiver get used that way could open up, a couple big runs for Hubbard. So it should be another close game against the Packers. I mean, they're only favored by 4 or 5 points. So it's going to be another game where they lean very heavily on Hubbard here.
Yeah, who'd have thought the worst team in the league is like the most game script proof? Like it doesn't matter whether
Right?
they're losing big,
Yeah.
losing small, winning. Like it's just they're giving their backs like 30. They're running
Yeah.
the ball like 30 times. All right, who are you low on?
I'm low on Joe Mixon. He's my RB 17. ECR has him RB 6. Again, that it's earlier in the week, but this is tougher matchup against the Steelers. But the main issue is obviously Chase Brown just continuing to eat into his workload, and he's looked phenomenal doing it. I mean, they needed an explosive back like that, anyways, and Brown's been that guy. And at one point, it looked like Brown just had completely leapfrogged Mixon. I mean, Brown would have a drive, and then the next drive you'd expect Mixon to be out there, and it was Brown again. So Brown had to leave the game to go to the blue tent in the third quarter. He was gone for like nearly a full quarter, and that's when Mixon was used like nearly every snap. He managed to get a goal line score during that stretch, which bailed out his fantasy managers, but it could have been even worse if Brown didn't have to leave the game. And I'm thinking, without Jamar Chase, it might make sense to give Chase Brown even more work because they need that explosive option out of the backfield. So I am very worried about Mixon's floor right now. Usually he's the high floor guy. We know he's getting a ton of work. But with that being kind of a mystery, he has a very low floor, a little bit too touchdown dependent, I think, to be an RB1 right now. So he's in that mid-range RB2 mix for me right now.
Yeah, I have him RB19 as well. I have him like about 15 touches or so for 70-ish scrimmage yards. It's just you can't depend on him to get those 80-90% snap rates like he was earlier in the year. Similarly, Austin Eckler, low on him, RB28. He's the RB22 in consensus. Last 5 games, just 13 and a half touches for just under 60 scrimmage yards per game. Obviously, new coaching staff, things could change, but he's been just Charger run game in general has just been struggling. He's been struggling, and you mentioned it last week with Easton Stick as a quarterback now and no Herbert. It just lowers the projected score. And obviously Buffalo is rounded into shape and playing, motivated football. Who knows what's going on with this Charger team? Have they checked out? But Buffalo is obviously going to bring it. Just shut down one of the top offenses in the league, in the Dallas Cowboys. So this is a dicey matchup for Eckler. I think he's more of a flex this week than a like bona fide RB, startable RB1 or 2.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. RB28, which if you drafted him number 2 overall, maybe first overall, not happy about that entering the fantasy playoffs. I mean, do you bench him? If you're deciding between us, Eckler, and Jalen Warren, you're playing Warren, right?
Yeah, I mean,
James
it's
Conner,
close, but yeah. Conner, yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, you are. I mean, you just don't know what to expect. I mean, he's a nice bullet to have if you're like, you're deep league, you need a flex or something. But yeah, if you're just relying on him now, the floor at this crucial time is low. And I mean, the floor is low forever. I mean, we saw Bijan Robinson get like 1 point against the worst run defense. So it could happen to anyone. But I mean, we could kind of see it coming a little bit with Eckler. We just don't know what the new coaching staff is going to do. All right, what do you got for prop?
Well, speaking of Bijan Robinson, let's go right to him. Total rushing and receiving yards against the Colts. I'm just rolling with what I have here as my initial projections. Let's go 72.5 yards.
I have 78. So I'll go over. I mean, it's uncomfortable, but this is kind of how this Falcons team has been all year, right? It's like Arthur Smith is like, draft very talented players in the top 10 and use them as decoys. Like he's almost got it figured out here. So, this is, we had Robinson kind of get benched, I think, down the stretch after the fumble. And he wasn't even being used as Algier mixed in a lot from the first drive on. So usually with this Falcon team, when a guy goes down super bad, he'll bounce back. So yeah, I'll reluctantly take the over on that one, but it's not pretty.
Yeah, no, it's not. And he takes former first-round picks and gives them a career year in their 30s. But, I was baffled with that. The game where he had the headache and everything, that was one thing. But they just clearly just wanted to use Algier as the lead back. It was as simple as that. So it's I don't know if it's because of the rain. They just wanted to play Smash Mouth style. They had they were missing 2 starters on the offensive line. It was just confusing. So yeah, it could go back the other way this week. Was just curious where you had it. Where do you have them ranked though? With your 7, 8.5? Like,
let's see.
That's got to be
RB 7. So yeah,
RB 7.
He's up there. Yeah.
Oh shit.
But, I mean, there's not really many. Like you said, it's like everyone has these same kind of issues, and like even giving him his like 50% of carries and whatever it is, under 50% actually now.
Yeah.
Still have him popping out. It's also Falcons do. I mean, I know a lot of it was Ritter who's benched, but the Falcons do play better at home in general. And you're indoor track here. It's that time of year, so yeah.
Yeah, if you have him, you're firing him up, unless you're completely stacked at running back. But Kyle Pitts is constantly on that sit-start fringe. Algier, when it comes to Robinson, you're starting him. We're just disappointed with his usage, is how I put it.
Oh yeah, I mean, it did turn around for 4 games, to be fair, and then it just kind of like 4 games straight without 15 plus touches, and then back to shit.
Brutal.
So, all right, wide receiver top 5.
CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, assuming he returns this week. Amon-Ra, Justin Jefferson, welcome back to my top 5, and AJ Brown.
Yeah, I got Lamb, Tyreek, Jefferson, Amon-Ra, and AJ. So yeah, same pretty much.
Nice.
Who you high on?
I'm high on Chris Godwin. He's my wide receiver 20 to open the week. Obviously coming off that massive 10-catch, 155-yard game. He's been the squeaky wheel the past 2 games ever since, his wife, I guess, complained on Instagram about that 0-catch game 3 weeks ago. He's seen a target on 38% of his routes run since that time. And just, you talked about Baker Mayfield earlier. Baker Mayfield is playing at a really high level, coming off his best game of his career. So I think that's going to help keep this momentum up with Godwin. It's been working targeting him. Obviously, Mike Evans is there, but these two can obviously both have a top 10 week any given week. So this is a Jags defense that's just been really shaky, dealing with injuries in their secondary. So I think we can treat Godwin, as a mid to low end wide receiver 2. And Trevor Lawrence playing will help this. I think if Trevor Lawrence is ruled out, I'd probably move Godwin down a little bit because the Bucs might be a little more run heavy. But either way, I think he's back in that wide receiver 2 mix just based on the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's definitely trending upwards, and with Baker playing well, and this Palmer's getting less involved. David Moore kind of is overtaking him, so it's pretty cut and dry. Like they're targeting White and then Evans and Godwin for the most part. I'm high on Rashee Rice is inside my top 10 this week, and a lot of it is his route participation, which was in the 50s and 60s for most of the year, even though he was productive. Last 3 weeks, 69%, 82%, 93%. So he's finally being treated like a true number 1 wide receiver in terms of snaps. And then you have this Vegas defense that plays the 3rd most zone coverage, and Rice is averaging 2.8 yards per route against zone. That's 7th in the NFL per PFF, and it's a full yard per route more than he averages against man coverage. So great matchup. And finally seeing, 80-90% of the snaps for Patrick Mahomes, who badly needs a wide receiver to step up. And like you said, Kelsey is probably not at his peak form either. So, you're essentially getting Patrick Mahomes' top target playing 90% of the snaps. That's essentially what Kelsey is too. So it's just, this guy is waiting a year. It kind of reminds me of Amon-Ra, where it just, when he was a rookie, it was just like every week his snaps kept going up, his numbers kept going up. I think Rice is kind of doing the same thing. So top 10 for me this week.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where I'm kind of like suppressing his initial projections a bit. If I just let it rip, he'd be my wide receiver 6, and if Pittman's out, he'd be in my top 5. Like, how many receptions are you projecting him for? Is it over 6 at this point?
Yep, 6.5. 6.5 for
6. Yeah, 6.5. I mean, that's where I am. We're at that point though.
Yeah,
And the Raiders are a great matchup for him too.
Yeah, and Mahomes is still one of those quarterbacks. Like a lot of this has been this year pass volume, and you get into a matchup with these backups and whatnot. But Mahomes is still averaging close to 40 attempts per game. He's gonna good bet to complete 25 passes per game. So that also kind of plays into it. Yeah. Mahomes is still getting the volume, even if the efficiency hasn't been there as much. Okay, who you low on?
I'm low on Gabe Davis. He's my wide receiver 56. Not that too many people probably have him in their starting lineup right now, but he's always that nice, potential bench option. If you're like a bigger underdog in a matchup, I always say you want to lean on a guy like Gabe Davis that obviously has a really high ceiling for, a fringe starter guy. But based on what we saw last week, where the Bills blew out the Cowboys and Josh Allen only completed 7 passes, now they face a Chargers team that just lost by 40 plus of the Raiders. I'm expecting they do not want Josh Allen chucking it up deep to Gabe Davis here. So I am way, way low on him. He's my boy, but this is a spot where you can't even use him as a wild ass flyer. He has to be on your bench this week and maybe next week. If you're in a spot where you're a big underdog, he might help you out there, but I am extremely low. So he's my wide receiver 56 to open the week. So yeah, leave him on your bench this week.
DFS play. That's about it. In case
even
the Chargers,
there, right?
Charger. I mean, the Chargers. It's the Chargers. It's like, bro, tell me the most Charger play ever wasn't Darius Davis returning a punt for a touchdown, and like as it's happening, you see that he has the punter to beat, and he has him beat by like 20 yards, and fucking a dude with stone hands named Smart holds the punter. like of all players to do it and of all times to get a penalty, like that probably should have got Brandon Staley fired on its own. Beyond
I think they were trying to get him fired, if I'm being honest. Yeah. But yeah, that game was just insane. And then how about I think, what was it, 3 or 4 weeks in a row I was using Aiden O'Connell as my sneaky stack, and then he just goes apeshit in a primetime solo game. Go figure. But
that's what I'm saying. Never discount the Chargers' ability to make other opponents look good. So like DFS, I would roll Davis, but you're right. Yeah, he's I think outside my top 50 as well. It's a full slate. There's a lot of wide receivers we could trust. Yeah. Well, I mean, I trust Palmer on the other side in that game, probably even with Keenan Allen back a little more than I trust Davis. So yeah. Yeah, he's my wide receiver 52. So not as well as you, but way down there. I got a couple. One is Terry McLaurin, who I liked last week, thought squeaky wheel bye week, coming off the bye. That was like the spot. And I mean, it wasn't even looking great until Jacoby Brissett came and kind of saved the day. But now he's going up against the Jets, and that's not ideal unless your name is Jalen Waddle. So they're still number 3 in pass defense DVOA, number 4 in DVOA against number 1 wide receivers, according to FTN. And McLaurin is just a wide receiver 38 in fantasy points per game and half PPR for guys who've played at least 6 games. So it's not as if he's been lighting it up. So, I have him in the mid 30s, and he's he's inside the top 30 in consensus coming off that big week. But I don't think we could trust him. And even that quarterback situation now is, who knows? I mean, they're probably going back to Howell, but that actually doesn't help Terry McLaurin. And then another guy who I don't know, he's been ranked so high these last few weeks, and I can't get there. And that's Odell Beckham Jr. He's the wide receiver 35 in consensus. He's my wide receiver 54, and it's kind of a similar ranking to last week. He only has 3 games with 50 or more yards, 4 games with 4 or more receptions. So he's been kind of relying on touchdowns, big plays, but as we can see, low floor, which showed itself in that game against Jacksonville. And now he plays San Francisco, so Baltimore may have to throw. But we saw what San Francisco completely shut out the Cardinal receivers last week. I mean, it was I think the tight ends finished 1, 2, and 3 in total receiving yardage for the Cardinals last week. So this is another matchup where the ceiling is high for Beckham. He's still a talented guy, but the floor is super low, and he's only playing on about 50 to 60% of the pass plays, which is just not ideal. And even coming off the bye, where presumably healthier, 57% and 59% route participation for the season, 58%. So right in line, even coming out of the bye, that he really hasn't hit anything higher, hasn't even gotten to the 70s since week 1, where he played every pass play week 1. And since then
got hurt, right?
I think he got hurt the next game, but yeah, kind of similar. Yeah. So yeah, pretty much. So yeah, they've been kind of, pulling him off the field for a lot of snaps and rotating in Bateman, rotating in Aguilar. So the ceiling is there, but the floor is kind of similar place to Gabe Davis. So I have him 54, 2 spots behind Gabe actually. So yeah, Low and Odell. Let's go back to Jordan Addison. I think he's interesting again with, Jefferson back, but Addison obviously balled out last week. So he's kind of in that fringe wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 range for me. So let's go with his receiving yardage. I'm going to go with, let's go 52.5.
Ooh, was that going to be a 40 in there? Is it sound like you're
I was gonna go something high 40s, but he's been consistently overperforming, even with Jefferson in the lineup in terms of his yardage. So yeah, I'll bump it to a little bit high. I essentially put it at my true average projection instead of lowering it a little bit for the median.
I hate this. I
have it at 52.
I'm gonna have to go under. I hate this. He's been overperforming because he's freaking good. But yeah, with Justin Jefferson, T.J. Hawkinson there, he has to do damage on his limited target share. But man, that's a good line. I think they probably figured out that Ty Chandler is their best running back. It took them 15 weeks, so maybe they lean on him a bit. But I think that's a good number, and he has a wide range of outcomes. But I would say his median's a little bit lower. But it did look like, it's been a long time since Jefferson, Addison, and Osborne all played a full game. But it does look like Addison leapfrogged Osborne, where Osborne is only playing in 11 personnel. Yeah. So that has been encouraging, but that's been warranted for a while now. So he has a much higher floor than normal, but I'm going to go under here. But that is a good number.
All right. I think I'd rather have you on the under for that.
So I don't want to be on the under. Trust me.
All right. Tight end, top 5. Who you got?
Travis Kelce. Although I should have gone with Sam Laporta number 1 in Fantasy Pros. That was the week there was an opening. Trey McBride, George Kittle, T.J. Hawkinson, and Sam Laporta.
I got Kelce, McBride, Njoku, Hawkinson, and Laporta.
Oh, yeah.
I got Kittle number 7, which is actually his ECR. So consensus has Kittle low too. So I don't know.
Tough matchup. But yeah, Njoku.
Yeah, I guess it is.
Njoku deserves to be in the top 5. I don't know why I don't have him there.
You'll probably get there. But who are you high on?
I've been waiting for this moment, but I'm high on Tanner Hudson. He's my tight end 15. He's officially in the streaming discussion this week. He's been one of Jake Browning's favorite targets. He's seen a target on 32% of his routes run with Browning under center. However, just the playing time hasn't been there. He's typically been around a 35% route participation, over the past 3 games with Browning. But last week, it jumped up to 48%, and that was likely due to Jamar Chase, having to leave the game. Just they need him as another receiving option. So this week, we could see him top 50%. My God, if it gets over 60%, this is kind of like Chig Okonkwo last year. His ceiling is massive if he gets the playing time. So we could see that happen this week. Obviously, I don't think the 32% target rate will be sustainable if he sees that much more playing time. But I don't know. With Jamar Chase not in the lineup, it could still be over 30%. So he's a high-end tight end 2 option in deeper leagues. And again, he's a streaming option where he has a very, very high floor for your typical streaming option. So if you're a favorite, and I don't know why you're streaming tight end, but if you need at least a handful of points from that slot, Hudson's probably your guy.
Yeah, he's just been every week. It's when he's on the field, they just target him. He's essentially there to catch passes. That's why I think mid-season they signed him to the roster, and it wasn't really, obviously not for special teams or anything like that. So, he's been on trending up. I'm high on Cole Kmet against the Cardinals. He's my tight end 10. He's tight end 13 in consensus. He's a tight end 6 in points per game, fantasy points per game this year, and he's facing this Cardinal defense that's 25th in DVOA against tight ends. So, like Kmet's just kind of getting swept on, especially with some of the bigger names back. But just based on kind of their underlying metrics and things like that, like I actually have Kmet ahead of guys like Taysom Hill, Dallas Goedert, guys like that this week. So I think people are kind of reluctant to play him over some of those guys, but just by the raw numbers, he deserves it. He's been a top 6 tight end. I even have him over Dalton Kincaid just barely this week. Actually, not even barely, by a whole point.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So it just kind of goes to show you, like, we're at that point of the year where we have enough data to kind of show who these guys are, especially a guy like Kmet who's been, hasn't been injured or anything like that. DJ Moore hasn't been injured, so you kind of what you see is what you get here. So yeah, have him as the top 10 tight end this week. Wouldn't be afraid to use him in a big spot. Who are you low
on? So I apologize to our producer David, but I am low on Taysom Hill, unfortunately. Believe me, I don't want to say this either, but he's my tight end 20 against the Rams, and he obviously has the widest range of outcomes of all tight ends, really, and this week's no different. Usually I say that's a reason to start him because tight end is such a crapshoot, such a low scoring position. Why not just force him in your lineup? But there's no more teams on bye. A lot of tight ends are back healthy. Dalton Schultz returned, Dallas Goedert's back. Even Darren Waller decided to return to action last week. So there's a lot more players with a higher floor than Taysom, like Tanner Hudson. Like, definitely Tanner Hudson over him. But Taysom had a low floor game last week. He was tight end 57, which was weird because the Saints won that game pretty handily. Usually that's when he sees more usage. Maybe they were easing him back because he was coming back from injury or whatever. So that doesn't help that they have a short week coming up here. So I just think he's more likely to hit his floor this week. So if you're, the favorite in your matchup and you have a really good option at tight end, just play them over him. But if you're a massive underdog and you want to tap into Taysom's top 5 upside, sure, he's always an option for that. But just this week, I'm leaning towards him being closer to his floor, unfortunately. So that's why he's outside of my top 15 even, which is pretty rare this season for me.
Yeah, he's my tight end 20 as well. Yeah. Another guy, I think perfect DFS play though, because
absolutely.
Isn't it? The Saints are another one of those teams. Like we talked about this where there's just this natural variance within the team's usage. It's not like certain teams every week same kind of usage. Certain teams one week it's like even the tight end rotation. Like now you're starting to mix in Jimmy Graham more. Juwan Johnson's playing less. Like it's just you never quite know what to expect with the Saint team. So yeah, DFS play, but in terms of medium projection. Yeah, he's my tight end 20 as well. I'm low on Dallas Goedert, tight end 14 for me. And that sounds kind of low, but I mean, number one, Jalen Hurts not playing too well at quarterback. Number two, as you mentioned, a lot of other guys healthy that we just have more, the numbers, underlying numbers just look better. And this Giant team quietly, the one thing they have done this offseason, upgrade that linebacking core, and now lo and behold, number 1 in DVOA against tight ends. And I can't remember the last time a Giant football team was good against tight ends, because the linebacker has been a problem for this organization for decades almost. Seems like since Antonio Pierce left back in the day. So this Giant team playing better. They also play the 8th most man coverage. Under Wink Martindale, they still blitz a lot. So, that involves staying in the block sometimes, for the tight end. And Goddard only has seen 23% of his targets come against man coverage this year, according to PFF. So not the greatest matchup. Maybe, they look at, Hurts is struggling on a deep ball. Maybe they give him a bunch of short underneath completions, but nothing's kind of sticking out. That's kind of putting him over the top here. Maybe he gets like a 6 for 38 type game, but the touchdown probability isn't super high here compared to a lot of the other guys. So, I'm low on him this week, kind of a fringe start stream guy for me. Where are you going for the prop?
Let's go Darren Waller. Curious where you're projecting him rank-wise and, stat-wise. So let's go with his receiving yards. against the Eagles. And I'm just going to throw it out there, 33.5. Where are you going?
I'll go over. I have him average right around a little over 40. So still high 30s median. He had 40 yards, I believe it was. 40 against the Saints. There's 40 something. Let me double check that. I'm pretty sure he got into the 40s. Yeah, 4 for 40 on 6 targets, but he only played like half the snaps. So I think you'll see him play a little bit more. Could be a trailing game script. So yeah, I'll go over. I mean, I don't think he would have came back if he wasn't
True.
at least somewhat, ready to go here. So yeah, I have him over, but I don't like taking overs, but yeah, pretty significant difference between, what did you say it was,
33.5.
Yeah, definitely have him way over that.
I mean, where are you ranking him?
12.
Ooh, so you're in the fantasy playoffs. Are you trusting him?
I mean, over Kyle Pitts and
Yes. Are you trusting him over Dalton Schultz or like a Tanner Hudson?
If Stroud plays, I would trust Schultz higher. Right now, it's kind of still iffy, and judging by the spread and total in that game, he's still not out of the protocol as we record this on Tuesday. So
yeah,
but yeah, Schultz, yes, but Pitts, Goddard, Freiermuth, no. You know what I mean?
What about like a Tucker? Christian Watson's out again, and you have Tucker Kraft and Darren Waller.
Probably not Kraft, because the Panthers have their numbers against tight ends are just redonkulous. They just don't give up numbers for tight ends. So it's I have Kraft right there. In terms of raw projection, and I think in a DFS he makes sense, but the median the floor I think for Kraft is probably lower than Waller, because the thing about Waller is when he's on the field, he's going to see targets more than likely. And it seemed like Daniel Jones, if anything, was killing his value more than anything.
Sure.
So, I mean, it's not pretty. And this could change. So definitely check our rankings at actionnetwork.com. But right now, I do have him kind of in that same mix. And I'm expecting him to play more than the 47% of routes he played last week. So,
yeah. That great plug there. Please check our rankings Sunday morning. We're a bit busy. I know he's going to be in the sit start discussion. I wish I could answer all the questions. That's why I just wanted to kind of address it now. When people are asking us and we're on Convince Me, we can't address it then. But yeah, it's tough. But you probably do have to roll the dice on him over most guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth, like you said, worth discussion. There's a bunch of guys in that range, so checking the ranks is going to be important. But right now, he's looking better than some. Okay. That's it's going to do it for our Week 16 player projections episode of the Action Network podcast presented by BetMGM. For more great fantasy content from Sean and I, be sure to check out our full fantasy preview episode that's out right now over on the Fantasy Flex podcast channel. Don't forget, being Stucky's betting preview episode drops every Thursday right here. And you can also check out actionnetwork.com for all of our NFL fantasy and betting content, fantasylabs.com for our DFS tools and models, Action Network Discord server. Link will be in the episode description for that. Sean is on X at @_oddsmaker. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Have a happy holidays, and let's get this money.